Sei bellissima!
So let's crack on with this engine. In the previous video I refitted the cooling water distribution pipe into the cylinder head and I adjusted the valve clearances here. First of all I'm going to be replacing this gasket from the rocker cover. So I will get rid of this and I will clean up this whole area in preparation for the new gasket to be dry fitted here. I've cleaned up that gasket area now and the new gasket is about to go on. If anybody's doing this job, it's worth mentioning that there's an oil way over there. So it is possible to put this gasket on the wrong way, like so, and in that case you wouldn't have any oil flow over in that port aft corner. So this is the way it needs to go back on. There we are. Just preparing to refit the rocker cover. I've cleaned up this edge as well. And I've got some new rubber washers which sit inside here, which is a good job because as we saw when we were taking this off, the old rubber washers become loose, so the spacer just slides around, and when you take that cover off it is quite easy to drop these spacers into the engine, so that's something to watch out for. And when you're putting it back together, if you don't have new rubber washers that are like this, which hold onto the spacer, you can have a little bit of trouble. If that is the case, you can use something like this. This is M111. It's a kind of thick silicone grease. You can just put a little smear of that on there and it will stick the spacer to the washer. But I'm lucky I've got the new washers, so I'm going to fit those. I'm now going to refit the exhaust elbow, which looks pretty nice compared to how it looked before I sprayed it. And I've seen that these bolts tend to corrode, so I've put a lot of waterproof grease on there just to prevent that from happening. And there is a new gasket under there, again being dry bedded. I'm now going to refit the wet exhaust, and these are always a pain to get on and off, so to try and help me out I'm going to put a little bit of this M111 grease onto the inside of the hose, and that should hopefully give it a little bit of lubrication. I've never seen one of those go on so easily, so I think that grease must have helped me there. I've cleaned up the inside of the thermostat housing, paying special attention to the sealing surface there. And I'm just about to remove and replace the seal on the thermostat. I've put some water resistant grease on these bolts as well, just to make it easier to get them out whenever they have to be removed in the future. Haha! I've just realised that I've made a mistake, and I wanted to show you it so that you can avoid making the same mistake. Basically, I've just been looking at reconnecting things and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, how am I going to get this pipe back in? And the answer is I'm not going to be able to, because I have refitted these in the wrong order. So I will now remove the exhaust elbow, refit this pipe with new seals on it, and then I'll refit the exhaust elbow. There you go, I am your guinea pig. Hello you two. What's been happening with you then for the past 90 minutes?
I was a prisoner of Emma. Emma prisoners. Not Emma's prisoner.
Were you not letting Mummy go? Were you just enjoying your cuddles with Mummy in the V-berth too much? So you couldn't stand to be on your own? Do you want to maybe eat some food?
Mm-hmm. Some fruit.
Fruit. Yummy, yummy. Well, I've just received an email and a parcel delivery has arrived, which is always a little bit exciting, isn't it? And look at this for a day. It is absolutely scorching. Glorious weather. So, although I'm currently cooped up working on the engine, it is nice that when you come outside to go and do something else, it's nice and sunny rather than being rainy or whatever other weather you might expect from the UK. By the way, did you know that it rains more days per year in Paris than it does in London? Yeah, surprising, eh? Us Brits have this reputation for always having rain all the time. It's not necessarily true. In fact, we've been here for weeks and weeks and weeks and it's only rained about 3 times. The rest of the time it's been absolutely glorious. So there you go, book your holidays to the UK, guys. We have parcels, which is always quite exciting, isn't it? And actually, a lot of the time I forget what I've ordered. You know, the little things that you order, I tend to forget, and then when I open packages, it's like a great surprise, and it's kind of like a present to myself. So I always enjoy receiving things like this. I thought I'd come and do this somewhere a little bit different. So here is the River Medway. There's a lot of history here, this area. If I just keep coming left, there's Upnor Castle, just over there. And the Dutch Navy came here, I don't remember exactly when, 450 years ago-ish. They sailed up this river and they got past a chain that was blocking the river, and they then set fire to quite a large proportion of the Royal Navy. So it was quite an audacious raid, and they did a good job of surprising the sleeping Brits and setting them alight. So that's one thing that happened here, and this castle at the time didn't do a great job of protecting the fleet. If I keep coming left, right in the distance over there you've got Rochester Castle, which is 930 years old, and then just beyond there, this is the old Royal Naval Dockyard at Chatham. There's lots and lots of history here, and in fact when they dug out the massive basins over there where our boat is currently moored, with the spill from that they used convicts, over 1,000 convicts at a time would move it over here, and they built an island here over the course of many years. Haha! Radar reflector, required by law. And a useful addition to any boat, because that allows ships like that to see you when they're on the water. These are extensions for the pull-out showers that we've bought. I haven't fitted them yet, but this will allow us to get pretty much anywhere in the boat that we want to. So we've got one for each head and one for the galley, and the one from the galley is long enough to reach over to the cooling water strainer for the engine, so we can feed the engine with fresh water to test on the hard, which will be very handy. Stainless steel hose clamps, always useful, and you never seem to have enough of those. A laser thermometer, that could come in handy later today for testing the engine. A new Gorilla Pod, the one that the camera is standing on now keeps falling over. It happened a few minutes ago, and sooner or later this expensive camera is going to get broken, so we can't have that. So we've got a new one of these. I hope it lasts a little bit longer than that one. Ideally I'd like a metal one, but I haven't been able to find any of those, so this is another plastic one. Fingers crossed. This is a clamp meter, and I wanted one of these to be able to measure DC amps up to quite high amperage, and this is going to be used on a top secret project coming shortly on our channel. And just to give you a clue, electric outboard. That's all I'm going to say about that. You'll have to wait and see, won't you? Needles, jeans needles for our Singer sewing machine. I've no idea what I'm going to do with these because I've never used a sewing machine and it's all new to me, but no doubt with the help of some YouTube videos I'll pick something up and be able to do something in the future with these. And some thread for the same purpose. I don't need to open this one because it's got vinyl lettering online.co.uk written on it, so I know what this is. I ordered some decals for the boat, some names and YouTube stickers, etc. And they are in here. Get in! There's a beautiful footpath here which runs along the side of the river, and hopefully we'll be able to do that soon with our family who have come to join us. I'm very excited to be able to do that. Boy oh boy. Hello. How are you? You watching it in Italian today, Paw Patrol? Good. And then tomorrow you can watch it in English. Well, it's a moment of truth. I'm about to start the engine and run it, and we'll see what happens. We now have an infrared thermometer, so we can use that to test different parts of the engine and we can see exactly what's happening with the cooling water. This is my understanding of how the Volvo Penta cooling system works on a raw seawater cooled engine. The seawater is drawn upwards by the impeller. Normally that's only through the sail drive leg via a valve, but on this boat we have the sail drive leg intake and a valve, and we also have a second intake and valve which I added for an additional intake of raw cooling water. So the water's drawn up by the impeller, that goes around sometimes straight into the cylinder head, but on this boat first of all it goes through an anti-siphon valve which is up there, and then it comes back down and then goes into the cylinder head. The water then passes through the distribution pipe which runs inside the cylinder head and into the exhaust elbow to keep that cool at all times. When I start the engine today, because the cylinder head is free of water, initially some of that water will go through the holes and fill the cylinder head, but only a certain amount until the pressure equalises. Then it will stop because the thermostat is closed, so there's nowhere for the water to go. Once it gets up to temperature, once it gets to 60 degrees, the thermostat will start opening. That will then allow water from the cylinder head to pass through, go through this pipe and exit via the exhaust. And that will cause a drop in pressure, which will then allow further water to exit through the small holes in the water distribution pipe into the cylinder head, cooling it down and then taking that heat out and getting rid of it through the exhaust. So now we've talked about that, we know what we're measuring with the infrared thermometer whilst we're running the engine. Wish me luck, guys. Reference readings. We have 24 degrees there on the cylinder head and on the thermostat. Basically this whole engine area is 24 degrees right now before starting the engine for the first time. It'll be interesting to see what happens here because we may have an airlock. Oh, there we go, we've got water coming through. Okay, it's all looking good down here. Let's go and have a look inside and get our thermometer on the go. Well, I am super happy with that. Things were happening exactly as I expected them to, and everything appears to be wonderful. Of course, we'll go on a shakedown cruise before we go anywhere offshore, and we're going to run the engine maximum revs. We're going to really give it some oomph and make sure that everything's working perfectly, but I'm really happy with that. Over 2000 RPM. The exhaust elbow was nice and cool. The engine was getting up to a nice hot working temperature, so it will burn the fuel efficiently, and the thermostat was operating as expected. I also felt the cooling water coming out of the exhaust with my hand. When the thermostat was open, you could actually feel the temperature of the water had increased, so super happy. Now that I've done that, I'm about to change the oil on this engine. I'm going to make a separate video about this because I don't want to put too much into this vlog, and this is a very specific video just about how to change the oil on a marine diesel engine. So if that interests you, then you can find that video here when it's ready. I'm going to make that video now and then I'll come back to you a little later on. Buongiorno! Well, I didn't see you again last night. I finished quite late and got to bed well after midnight. But today's a new day, and today I'm going to be continuing the engine overhaul, but today I'm working on the fuel system. There are two filters on this boat. There's a cav filter over there, Delphi 296, which filters the fuel coming from the fuel tank. That then goes through a non-standard fuel hose here, which was fitted before we bought the boat, which I saw before we bought the boat, and which I bought ages ago, but I haven't had a chance to replace yet, so I'm going to be doing that while I'm in here doing this. Fuel goes through here, through this manual lift pump, into the filter on the engine itself, so I'm going to replace this too. And then once I've replaced this hose and the 2 filter elements, I'm then going to use this pump to pump all the air out of this bleed point. I'm not going to show you all the details in the video because I need to crack on and get some work done, and filming things like this makes things take 4 times as long, so I really need to get our to-do list done so that we can get going. But I shall catch up with you a little bit later.
What happened, Chris? Good start of the day.
Happened recently in the last few minutes between me dipping my foot in the flipping bucket of water while I was working on the engine.
It's very messy here, oh my god.
Suddenly tripped over this bucket of diesel. The washing machine fill hose fell out and flooded the floor. And then I was eating a banana because I've got diesel over my hands. I didn't want to touch it, so I was opening it like that, trying to open it, and the flipping banana snapped and fell in the bilge.
I guess you need another one.
Patience is a virtue. And the mic's on backwards.
Well, they can hear better what I say.
Do you know what though? We've got the best anti-stress in the world, haven't we? We just need to look at you for 10 seconds and anything we're annoyed about just disappears. Do you make Mummy and Daddy happy? Yes you do, don't you? You do. I've replaced the fuel filters. I feel a bit guilty not showing you exactly how I did that. So if anybody does want me to make a specific video about this, leave a comment, and next year when I do the job again, I'll do a video. So now is the moment of truth. Let's see if the engine is going to start and run. It's an absolutely stunning day today, glorious sunshine, and we're going to make the most of that. Like I say, we have family visiting, so we're going to go for a walk along the river there together.
Where are you going, Chris?
I'm just going around the corner to show our viewers the coolest thing that I've ever seen with a boat. This is the pub right next to the marina, always quite busy, and look what's around the corner. And look at that, somebody's tied their boat up right next to the pub, basically in the pub's beer garden. This is an old Royal Naval shipyard basin here, and I didn't know boats were allowed in here because these are all residential apartments now. And that block, that's a shopping centre, shopping complex. And now that I've seen this, I am very, very tempted to do the same. How cool is that?